Hey everybody, so today we are going to continue our study of the artwork of Romare Bearden. The supplies you will need are in front of you right now. You need pencil, eraser, and paper. You need at least that. I'm going to be using the same supplies as before, the colored pieces of paper, pen or marker, glue stick or glue, scissors, and colors. It would be better if you had more than just, easier if you had more than just pencil and paper, if you had pencil, paper, and colors. And even better is pencil, paper, colors, and scissors. And the best is the scissors and glue. Okay, so let's continue our study of Romare Bearden and his instrumental collages. Okay, here's an example of the kind of artwork that he makes. Okay, and it's collage, so they're drawing with scissors, cutting and pasting, right? So if you remember Romare Bearden, he was born in 1911 in Charlotte, North Carolina. Romare Bearden was an American artist, author, and songwriter. He worked with many types of media, including cartoons, oils, and collages. He was born in Charlotte. He grew up in New York, Pittsburgh, and Pennsylvania, and graduated from New York University. So here's our artist. And just to give you a little bit more different background information, here is some more information about our artist, Romare Bearden.
After the Civil War, Romare Bearden's great-grandparents were among the African-American middle class that established businesses in Charlotte, North Carolina, where the railroad and cotton industries prospered. But when Bearden was a young child, his family faced discrimination in the Jim Crow laws and attitudes of the South. So in 1914, the 3-year-old Bearden and his parents participated in the Great Migration to the North, moving to New York City. After his family moved to Harlem, Bearden spent many fondly remembered summer vacations in North Carolina with his great-grandparents. Bearden, of African, Cherokee, and Italian descent, was one of America's most vibrant and innovative 20th century artists. Although Bearden achieved artistic success with different styles in media, today he's remembered mainly for his collages, which he referred to as paintings. In his collages, he not only analyzed the social and political issues of his time, but he also told his personal story and the daily life experiences of African Americans living in the rural South and the urban North. In addition, his paintings incorporated references to music, classical art, literature, and religion. He described his process in creating the collages as follows. I first put down several rectangles of color, some of which are in the same ratio as the rectangle that I'm working on. Then I paste a photograph, say anything, just to get me started. Maybe a head at certain places in the canvas. I try to move up and across the canvas, always moving up and across. Bearden had a passion for trains. He spent many hours as a boy with his great-grandfather watching trains roll through Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, let's get into our story. My Hands Sing the Blues, Romare Bearden's Childhood Journey. Written by Jean Walker Harvey, illustrated by Elizabeth Zunon. I snip a patch of color and add a cutout face. Oh, I glue on jazzy blue for sky and add another face. People walk into my work as if it's always been their place. My hands sing the blues when I paint and cut and paste. I never know what I'll create when I paint and cut and paste. I use paper, fabrics, photos, and nothing goes to waste. Today, my memory rolls back to my North Carolina past, swirling days of hot July, picking berries in my past. Just then, a train roars across my canvas with a loud and steamy blast. I'm back as a boy, talking with great-grandma down the old dirt road. I'm walking with great-grandma down the old dirt road, to the land of the Cherokees, from where her stories flow. Rocking on her creaky swing, we hear the crickets chirp. We feel the humming of Magnolia Mill and hear the crickets chirp. We gulp down warm tomato slices, trying not to slurp. Riding up on great-grandpa's shoulders, I am a strong and mighty tower. My chin rests on his head. I am a strong and mighty tower. We're watching the good trains go by, hour after hour. We know every train by its swinging whistle tune. Each engineer plays a different whistle tune, like the Atlanta New York special sizzling through at noon. The trains cha-chunk on by. Woo woo, woo woo, one more round of whistles. Woo woo, woo woo, wah wah dee doo. Then one day I'm waiting on a bench for a train to roll on in. Mom and Pop and me, we're waiting for a train to roll on in, to take us to New York, where our new life will begin. From the south to the north, many more have gone before me. Riding on the railroads, many more have gone before me, wanting to be free like the wind blows through a tree. From somewhere down the track, I can hear that whistle blow. I tap my toes to the beat and hear that whistle blow. Whoa-de-whoa, the locomotive slides in slow. Lifting luggage up the stairs, the Pullman porter nods at us. Standing by the sleeping cars, the Pullman porter smiles at us. But we can't go in the sleeping cars, and we're not to make a fuss. Tears sting my eyes when I hear the call, all aboard! I hug great-grandma and great-grandpa, and then I climb aboard. I settle in my seat and wonder what we're traveling toward. Tink-a-tink, tink-a-tink, the engine picks up speed. Canuck-ca-nee, tink-a-tink, tink-a-tink. Bye-bye, Trade Street Station, Canuck-ca-nee. With a thrumming and a drumming, the train hums a tune to me. I press my nose against the glass and watch the world whizzing by. A patchwork quilt of greens and golds, the world whizzing by. Farms and fields of cotton, roosters pecking bugs nearby. I spy a woman by a washtub, stirring, staring up at me. I wonder what she's thinking, staring up at me. Maybe that tomorrow, so far away I'll be. The train glides us up to Harlem, New York City. That's where I am right now, painting what's inside me, sharing stories of my past and the joys and fears inside me. Like a flower, I have roots in my Carolina past, roots sunk deep in my childhood long past. The people and the places are in my art to last. When I begin something new, I take it slow and steady. I let myself become my art and take it slow and steady. I'll lag behind the beat until I'm sure I'm ready. I want my art to touch each of us so we can understand. I want to follow roads from secret places so we can understand that the blues sing for each of us all across the land. I'm like a singer calling out, then holding back. I'm like a trumpet player blowing loud, then dropping back. When I put a beat of color on an empty canvas, I never know what's coming down the track.
Okay, so that was just a little bit more about our artist, Romare Bearden. And if you remember, last time we talked about this artwork by Romare Bearden with the musicians. We started by describing the lines and shapes and colors and textures. And, you know, we described that there were 3 musicians and that they're holding instruments. We talked about how all the different lines in their clothing are creating textures and patterns. We talked about how colorful it was and how there are so many different shapes put together to build this whole artwork. And we talked about how there's a building in the background and more textures as well. Okay, we talked about how it's all the same. And it's all the same because it's, even though they're all different things, they are put together by cutting out little pieces of paper and gluing those pieces together to create whatever object it is. And that's how they're all the same, even though there are different parts. And that's called a collage. Remember we talked about drawing with scissors. And when we talked about the mood and interpreting the mood and feeling, You know, we talked about how it's a happy type mood because it's a group of musicians playing in the neighborhood where they live for all the people around them. Okay. And then we started our artwork. Okay. So last time you were supposed to pick one of these instruments, draw it real big on your paper, cut it out, trace it onto a colored piece of paper, and then cut that out. So you'd have an entire instrument that was just a solid type of color, similar to this right here. Okay, I did the instrument cut out, glued onto another colored piece of paper. This is one of the versions where you could just use crayons and color your piece of papers and then glue them together. So instead of having colored paper, you can just color pieces of paper and use those as colored pieces of paper. Okay, so yeah, you were supposed to cut it out onto another piece of paper, glue it to a third piece of paper, and then start adding details. Okay, and that's about pretty much as far as everybody got last time. So get your art project ready and your supplies ready. We were going to finish this project today, so get that stuff ready and we'll get started in just a moment. Okay, hopefully by now you've got your supplies all organized and ready. What we are going to do is we are going to continue the project that we started last time. So at this point, hopefully you have cut out, well, hopefully you have an instrument on a piece of paper. That's as far as you need to go at this point. So if you're just drawing, you're going to need to figure out how to add these details and make them look like they're cut out pieces of paper. Okay, so at this point, we're going to start adding details to our instruments. Okay, so if you look at my examples here, and I'm going to go ahead and make my screen bigger. There we go. Okay. So at this point, you need to cut out these little pieces and glue them on. All right. Okay, if they're really, really tiny, like the string, you're just gonna have to draw that on there. Okay, so if you're just drawing or you've cut out pieces of paper that you have colored, you have to figure out how can I make this look like cut out pieces of paper. All right, so what I'm gonna do is all those papers that I cut out, I think I'm going to make it look like they're glued on cut out pieces of paper. Put that on there. It's okay, you can color right over other colors. Okay, so hopefully that looks like a piece of paper that was cut out and glued on there. All right, here's another shape that you can cut out and glue. If you're doing the same one as me. Oops, I broke my crayon. That's how hard I'm pressing. Now I have two. All right, I'm going to add black shape here. Okay, and then those rectangles all the way down. Okay. Try and color those in, make them look like cut out pieces of paper that were glued on. So the trick to making it look like glued on is to make sure it's colored nice and neat so it just looks like a colored piece of paper. So you don't want to see any of those scratchy scribble lines. And that definitely helps make, create that illusion. Color these a little bit gray. And then the strings, I would not have been able to cut those out. They're just so thin. Okay, so there's the example if you don't have scissors and glue. Here is the example if you do. I'm going to put these both into the picture. You know, see? Pretty close. So let's see, you have, I'll give you another minute to go ahead and start doing that. Okay, so at this point, if you have scissors and colored paper and glue, you should be cutting out and gluing all the details for your instrument. If you're just using paper and colors, then you should make it look like it was cut out and glued. So we were tracing shapes and coloring them in. Nice and neat, so they just look like colored pieces of paper, no scribble lines. Okay, so for the next part, we're adding details, all right? So let's focus on these shapes. So geometric shapes. So what we're going to do is we're going to, if you remember, like Romare Bearden, he puts together these whole pictures and they're just cut out pieces of shape. So for those of you who have scissors and glue and colored paper, I'm going to start cutting out some of these shapes and gluing them onto my paper. Random geometric shapes like circles, rectangles, parallelograms, half circles. So for the first step, use this. So I'm just going to start randomly gluing shapes into the background. Okay, they can represent a mood or a feeling associated with the instrument. So they're just colorful shapes that we're adding. Okay, if you want to go ahead and get started adding some of these colorful shapes, you could just color a white piece of paper, cut out those shapes and glue them if you don't have colored paper. Or we are going to have to just kind of like how we added the details for the instrument. You might have to draw it and make it look like there are cut out colored shapes. Okay, so there's one version, there's one example. Here's another one. Okay, so if you just have colors, right, you can just start drawing some of these colorful shapes on there. This, once again, the key is to color nice and neat to make it look like it's a glued piece of paper, solid piece of paper. Okay, so if you haven't started right now, we are just adding colorful shapes to our collage to create that illusion of a collage if you don't have scissors and glue. Here's some examples. Switch colors. Okay, so if you want to get started with that, you can go ahead and do that now. Okay, so here are the two examples. And the final part, we're also going to be adding these musical notes to our background. So you can see them here. And you can cut them out of black paper if you have one. Or you're going to need to draw those. So here's an example of one that I can glue. Whoa, I almost ripped it. Okay, so I can just glue that onto the background in different random places like that. Or if you're unable to cut and glue, or maybe you can just color a piece of paper black, put that out and glue it if you don't have color paper. Or if you're just drawing, you can start adding some of these designs to your background. Like so. You can copy the ones that you see over there. I'm sharing with you with my screen. Try and do that really hard looking one. That's pretty good. I'm just cutting out some shapes as well. Okay, you can be doing the same thing. Oops, I just lost my notes. No. Just have to make some more. Another one. And these shapes can overlap on top of other shapes. That's fine too. Okay, so, oh, there it is. There is that other shape. Okay, so right now you should be adding shapes and musical notes to your background. If you're cutting and gluing, it'll look a lot like this. If you're drawing, look a lot like that. Okay, to finish off our Romare Bearden collages. Okay, so over the next week, take some time to finish these collages up and make sure you either submit them or email them to me or bring them to class. I'm always really excited to see your guys' finished artworks, and I can't wait to see them. And I really, really look forward to seeing you guys next time you are in class. Feel free to, if you have any challenges or need help with your project, feel free to email me. You can email me pictures of your projects. We can talk about them whenever you need help. So don't be afraid to email me. Okay. Other than that, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you had fun, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time in our live Zoom class. Have a good day.